So here we go. This is also new for me. So let us recap what we have accomplished. Yoshi began. This is the Japanese mediator. On the left side of the table sat the Chinese delegation, led by China's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Li Wei. Li's sharp, hawk-like eyes scanned the room as though searching for weaknesses. Beside him were his aides, their faces expressionless, ready with their smartphones and tablets to record every word spoken. Yes, Special Envoy, Li agreed. A reminder of the concessions China has graciously granted would be a good place to start. On the opposite side, the Russian delegation exuded tension. Li Wei's sarcasm was lost on no one. Foreign Minister Sergei Rabakov held himself with stiffness of a man carrying the burden of a crumbling empire. Yet he remained defiant, his aides' expressions betraying their unease. Really, Li Wei? Sergei asked. That tone is not helpful. It was the fourth meeting in a marathon series of negotiations since China had issued its ultimatum for Siberia. Under the circumstances, Yoshi thought things were going quite well. He had the parties meeting face to face, and a 30-day ceasefire had gone into effect on August 1st. The implications of the ultimatum still hung over the room like a sword poised to fall. Gentlemen, Yoshi continued, ignoring the sarcasm and the Russian foreign minister's irritation, his voice smooth and even. We have made substantial progress. That much cannot be denied. China has backed away for its demand for all of Siberia. The parties have agreed on a 30-day cessation of all military activities. There is more work to be done, of course, but we're making progress. He paused to let his words settle over the room. He looked hard at the Russian and Chinese delegations in turn. But we are at a crossroads, and as I've said before, this process requires compromise from both sides. History teaches us that unyielding pride leads only to destruction. The Russian delegation stiffened at his words. Sergei's face darkened, but he did not interrupt. Yoshi turned his attention to the Russians, his tone softening slightly. Minister Rybakov, we've been over these many times. A land for peace agreement coupled with a cession of aggression seems fair under the circumstances. Russia is facing significant internal challenges. Your industrial base is weak. Your military resources are all but depleted after fighting on two fronts. And let's not forget, your people are suffering. There is starvation and shortages of essentials like medicine. These are realities you cannot ignore. Sergei clenched his fists under the table, his jaw tight as he listened. Every word from Abe Yoshi felt like a hammer striking the brittle remains of Russia's dignity. For decades, the Kremlin had prided itself on being a global superpower, an empire whose influence stretched from Europe to the Pacific, from the Baltic to the Caspian Sea. And now, here he was, being told to surrender vast swaths of Siberia, Russia's heartland in the east. He stole a glance at his aides. Yulia, his chief advisor, met his gaze and gave a barely perceptible nod of encouragement, but her eyes betrayed the same weariness he felt. They both knew the truth. Yoshi was right. Russia's situation was dire. The war in the Ukraine had drained them, and the sudden Chinese aggression on their far eastern flank had exposed the fragility of their once mighty empire. This is a bitter pill to swallow, Mr. Yoshi, Sergei said, his voice steady but low. Russia's destiny has always been to span two continents. No one can ask us to give that up. Li Wei allowed himself a faint smirk at Sergei's words. He leaned back slightly in his chair, steepling his fingers as he observed the Russian delegation. To Li and Xi Jinping, Siberia was more than just territory. It was the culmination of decades of planning. With Russia weakened and isolated, the time had come to claim what he and Xi saw as rightfully theirs. We're not asking, Mr. Yoshi, Li said, his voice calm but firm. China is taking. This is not a negotiation about whether Siberia will be ours. It's a negotiation about how much suffering Russia will endure before it accepts the inevitable. The room fell silent. Sergei's knuckles whitened as he gripped the edge of the table. Li's aides exchanged knowing glances, their fingers poised to record any slip of emotion from the Russians. Abe Yoshi remained composed, though the tension in the room had grown significantly. He leaned forward slightly, placing his hands flat on the table. Minister Li, he said evenly, I'm not sure such statements strengthen your position. They do nothing to bring us closer to a resolution. Remember, your military advantage is conventional only. We are here to prevent nuclear holocaust. He turned his gaze back to Sergei. I understand this is a difficult moment for Russia. The legacy of your nation is one of resilience, of overcoming insurmountable odds. But, Mr. Foreign Minister, resilience does not mean clinging to the past at the expense of the future. China's concessions allow for Russia to remain on two continents. Your people are suffering. A nuclear war? What choice do you have? Sergei leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. He thought of the countless reports piling up on his desk in Moscow. Food riots in major cities, protests demanding an end to the war, Factories shuttered due to lack of materials. The Kremlin's resources were stretched to the breaking point. Yulia leaned in and whispered, Sergei, we need to think of the people. Yes, Siberia is a symbol, but symbols don't feed the hungry. Sergei nodded absently. He had seen the desperation in his staff and watched as once proud generals struggled to maintain order with troops who hadn't been paid in months. After a long pause, Sergei spoke. His voice was heavy, as though his words threatened to crush him. There is always a choice, Mr. Yoshi, he said, his eyes locked on the mediator. But it is the choices themselves that make life difficult. You ask us to give up part of our soul. Do you understand what that means? To carve out a piece of who we are and hand it over, not as an offering, but as a surrender? He then looked Li Wei in the eye. China started this conflict, so they own its consequences. If Russia must use nuclear weapons to secure its borders, that is on China. Yoshi inhaled sharply, his eyes wide in alarm. Mr. Rybakov, I don't understand how you can seriously entertain such a possibility. It is your duty as a leader to protect your people above all else, even if it means sacrifices that history may judge harshly. The alternative cannot be on the table. Yet it is, Mr. Yoshi, Sergei responded. The Chinese have only themselves to blame. The room fell into a tense silence, with each side retreating into their thoughts. Li Wei watched Sergei with a mixture of impatience and respect. Even from such a position of weakness, the man projected strength. Abayoshi observed both delegations, his mind working to find a sliver of common ground. Finally, Sergei exhaled deeply and turned to Li Wei. Li Wei, you and I should speak, only the two of us. Yoshi was at once relieved and concerned. Are you certain you do not wish me to be present, he asked. Turning back to Yoshi, Sergei said, let us do this thing, assuming Li Wei is willing. China is always prepared to listen, Li Wei said. Yoshi inclined his head respectfully. Let us clear the room.